Premier League referees have an unconscious bias towards the big clubs.
I think it's partly true, right? But I feel like the teams, for example, Newcastle, get away with a lot of murder.
So my argument is the unconscious bias comes from the fact that, you know, if you make a mistake at Old Trafford and you're going to have millions and millions of people bombarding you, you're making a mistake at Turf Moor. I think for me, there's an influence in a lot of the games, especially when it comes to the minnow clubs like myself, like a Burnley or like a Bournemouth or, you know, a Crystal Palace and that and stuff like that, Fulham's. I think there is that kind of bias that creeps in when it's Newcastle and it's maybe not this minnow club where the news isn't, you know, like if a referee makes a mistake in Arsenal versus Burnley and it benefits Arsenal, no one's going to talk about it.
I hear it, but I think the argument should be that the referees on PGMO are just incompetent in general.
I think I know where you're going here. Yeah.
I'd argue that statistically, there's going to be a greater probability of fouls, incidents happening in favour of a big team.
Of course,
so just by that alone, it's going to be a chance that they will win more decisions.
So last season, if you look at the three of the bottom four, it was Bournemouth, Southampton, and Nottingham Forest were in three of the bottom four for on ESPN's points total from VAR, which means it's not necessarily about them committing a high volume of fouls, which lead to more penalties going against them. That's wrong decisions being made against them, you know, whether it be wrongful handballs or anything like that.
So my point is that it's not necessarily like Bournemouth, based on the league table, Forest 2 times European Cup winners, a bigger club, and yet they're getting bad decisions.
What you just said to me, that by territorial, the better clubs will often get more decisions towards them, because the smaller clubs, the worse clubs, like a Burnley or some people around the bottom, will obviously have things go against because they commit more fouls. But then the teams who had it go against them, like Bournemouth Forest, weren't some of the worst clubs in the league. They were arguably some of the best
but you're
teams
saying
in the
there's
league.
bias. My point is, bigger decisions will generally go in favour of bigger teams just because they're creating more opportunities, right? But the example you use shows how random it is to make this narrative of bias against smaller teams. My point is, it's kind of random.
But again, you said...
Whereas you're saying there's a definite agenda against smaller teams, where I'm saying it's a bit random.
No, but you're saying
it's unconscious bias.
Unconscious bias is basically a subconscious agenda, isn't it?
No, that's not what I'm... I wouldn't say that, you know, 100 million Arsenal fans or 5,000 Burnley fans. Which would you rather annoy? You'd rather annoy the 5,000 people.
The Premier League would be better without the top 6.
The Premier League would be better without the top 6.